Hello, everyone. Welcome to your online program, the Eurogip Discussions, which aims to approach occupational risks from an international perspective, especially in a European context. Platform workers, the ETUC point of view on the new directive. Thanks to the new directive, EU 2024-2831, of the 23rd of October 2024, more than 28.3 million workers, 2022, in the EU who work for digital platforms such as Uber or Deliveroo could see their working conditions improve. This new European directive is an important step towards balancing worker protection and innovation. The main changes introduced include measures to clarify the professional status of platform workers, who are often mislabeled as self-employed, and ensure fair access to employment rights and social protection, to increase transparency and allow human control over the decisions made by the algorithms that platforms use to manage tasks. What does the European Trade Union Confederation, ETUC, do? This is the subject of our Eurogip Discussions Ep3, with T. Jark, Confederal Secretary.
I've been very much involved in this topic for years now, and it's nice to see that it has been developing and progressing in a good way.
Platforms and platform workers in the EU. Some figures. People working through digital labor platforms perform tasks for customers in exchange for money. Digital platforms match them with one another and organize the work performed. Digital platforms cover local physical work, food delivery, transport services, VTC, housework, DIY, gardening, cleaning, care services, etc. Online work, translation, programming, graphic design, content writing, microtasks, software testing, etc. The situation in the EU is very heterogeneous. Conditions vary greatly between platforms and countries, and accurate data remains difficult to obtain as many platforms do not share their statistics. Nevertheless, here is some data on platforms and platform workers in the EU. Platform workers are a substantial labor force in the EU, 28.3 million in 2022. This number is expected to reach 43 million by 2025, an increase of 52% in 3 years. Of all platform workers, 7% are employees and 93% are self-employed. Of the self-employed, 19% are likely to be misclassified. A significant proportion of workers are in a gray area between self-employment and salaried employment. The profile of workers includes students, people changing careers, part-time workers, and the precarious or marginalized populations. Some are looking for additional income, while others are completely dependent on the platforms for their livelihood. Their working hours are flexible, but often dictated by demand and algorithms. The profile of platform workers.
Many of the platform workers are actually young people. Many of them enter this job thinking that it's just going to be something temporary, something on the side, maybe while they're still studying or while they're looking for a real job opportunity. But many of them also stay longer. When we think of the platform workers, we think of the most visible ones, either the delivery riders or the taxi drivers such as Uber. But a huge proportion of platform workers are actually hidden because they might work as cleaning ladies at home, or they provide other domestic services, even care work. During the pandemic, of course, we saw a huge increase of the platform workers. The platform work is still growing, and all the data that we have are changing very rapidly.
Why was a European directive needed?
We got familiar with the problem for platform workers, especially at the national level. Many of the workers did not have the right corresponding to their status, and they had to go to the court to claim their rights. And they were involved in this lengthy procedures that was a huge burden for them and also for the trade unions. Many of the workers are basically not having any of the contracts, which of course put their situation in even more precarious position. Many of them are also migrants. It's a huge proportion of undeclared work, also because it's lacking regulation. It's really using the platform workers Yes, as slaves who don't even understand the algorithm. They don't understand like why the same workers who might be colleagues are having different offers. And there are even more and more cases proving that platforms have been using the personal data of the platform workers. So they have been tracking them even when they weren't working. They have been trading with the data from the different apps and selling this data as well. And of course, this is not something that should be allowed. So here in Europe, we do have workers' rights. We do have labor standards. And of course, the innovation and the technology and digitalization is welcome. But of course, the employers operating in Europe have to fit under the European legislation, and those standards cannot be circumvented. What we saw is that the employers do not want to recognize their role as employers. We believe that every platform worker should have the same rights across Europe, and this is why we called for the European Directive that would regulate the platform.
What will Directive EU 2024-2831 change?
Now, the directive aims to ensure the level playing field all across Europe to protect all platform workers, or at least the majority of the platform workers, and to put the regulations in place that haven't existed before. Well, the most important part is for sure the presumption of employment. It really says that member states need to design measures that are going to facilitate this presumption of employment. So in practice, it indeed means that workers are going to not be self-employed anymore, but they should have their employment contract with all the workers, with all the social rights. Then the second part is referring to algorithmic management. Here, it's the really groundbreaking provision that we managed to include in the directive because it ensures the transparency of the algorithm, it ensures the rights of the platform workers and the workers performing the platform work to get the information about the data that is being collected on them, also the personal data.
Transposition and implementation, the challenges ahead.
It is a huge progress, but the real potential of the directive lies in the transposition, and it lies in the hands of the member states of all of the countries that will still need to transpose and make this directive concrete in terms of the measures they're going to propose and in terms of the protection they're going to provide for the platform workers. Yeah, the European Directive presents a framework, and the presumption of employment, it's written in a way that it might be interpreted differently in different member states. This is why the transposition process is crucial. And the European Commission just established an expert group for the transposition. With this expert group, they are gathering the representative of 27 member states and the European social partners. And we're going to look at each and every provision and try to understand it, how it's going to be applicable in all 27 member states. So the directive does provide a certain level of flexibility. It's not restrictive. Member states can adjust it to their national practices, to their collective agreement, to their national law. But of course, the main objective has to be reached. This is that it makes it easier for the workers to claim their employment status. We do believe that there will be countries who will be more ambitious in their transposition because we might not be able to secure everything in the directive. There are still some loopholes. And this is why we're going to work very closely with our trade unions in all of the different countries, adopting the legislation without ensuring that there is a meaningful change in the field. It's simply not enough. This is why the enforcement is a crucial point. This is why the labor inspections play a crucial role as well. Because every legislation could be written very nicely, but if it doesn't apply in practice, then of course workers are going to continue to be exploited. Part of the accompanying measures also need to be the education of the labor inspectors, so they will be more familiar with platform work, with algorithms, with possible measures to trigger the presumption of employment.
A future-specific directive on algorithmic management?
we are advocating to have a new directive only on algorithmic management for all of the sectors. And we hope that the new commission is going to put this into their agenda as well, because indeed algorithmic management is entering the old industrial relationship. It's not something that we would see only in platform work, but we see it everywhere else. And of course, there needs to be some kind of human in control principle incorporated so that your working conditions cannot be determined by an algorithm. It has to be determined by a real person. It has to be a right that you talk with a real person, not only through the app. You cannot be fired by the algorithm. It has to be a real person that explains why the termination of the contract has happened, and so on and so forward.
We thank Tijar for sharing her point of view in this third episode of the Eurogip Discussions. We look forward to being with all of you for the next episode. In the meantime, follow us on our website and our social media. See you soon for another episode.